So if you've been a part of this community for the past several years, you've kind of gotten to know me a little bit better as your minister. And actually, as I mentioned earlier, in just a few months, I'm going to be marking my 3-year anniversary here. Can y'all believe it? 3 years. Time flies, so you're having fun or not, right? So I know a lot of you have been a member of the community that long, and some of you have been a lot longer than that. You know, I'm rather new to the scene. I think if I'm calculating correctly, we'll celebrate our 10th anniversary in next March. So getting close. We need to have a party. We need to have a party. So one of the things that I strive to do here is to keep this space free of politics, right? And I encourage everyone to vote, to be informed, to know the issues that face our world, our country, our city, our communities, but I seldom use the weekly lesson to discuss any of that. I won't do that. You know, personally, I believe that there are many, many places in the community where you can go and find a place to be politically or socially active. There are very, very, very few places in our community where you can come and receive spiritual food and a higher perspective from all of that, especially about religion and God and stuff like that. So I try to honor the idea that you come here for spirituality, and I teach accordingly, right? So that being said, I believe that we come to the science of mind to begin to unravel the beliefs and thinkings that we have that were taught to us in our younger years about God and religion, as I said, for the most part. And we study and learn and we live in spiritual community together. And as we do that, we begin to realize that we have beliefs and ideas and thoughts that actually impact the quality of our lives, and they either limit us or they give us greater freedom, right? So the beliefs that limit us or cause us to react from fear about life, we work on those. We work to heal those beliefs and replace them with spiritual truth. And that's the teaching of this philosophy. We don't tell you what to think in this philosophy at all. We just say, know what you think and understand that what you think creates the quality of your life out there. So, in light of the social justice movement regarding racial oppression that kind of pushed to the forefront with the death of George Floyd and others, our parent organization, the Centers for Spiritual Living overall, answered Spirit's calling on this issue in the biggest way that I have ever seen in the 20 years that I've been a part of this organization. And they offered an opportunity recently for ministers to take a personal journey into our belief systems regarding race. And they had no idea how many ministers would sign up for this. They had no idea who would participate. So they sent out this invitation to do a 4-week group to kind of come together to experience the book, Me and White Supremacy. The subtitle is Combat Racism, Change the World, and Become a Good Ancestor. The author's name is Laine Syed. I don't know how I say her name correctly. But anyway, it's a 28-day journaling experience that would be witnessed by other ministers. Over 200 ministers joined the group, and I was one of them. So throughout the month of July, I participated in the most belief-challenging and changing and enlightening journey that I have been on in my world of mental beliefs that have been taught to me over many years of living in the culture that we live in, that we all live in. It was mind-blowing. If this teaching has changed my beliefs in so many other areas of my life, it has now changed my beliefs about our culture. And the response was so powerful and pronounced as we went through as ministers in the month of July. CSL then offered a group that started in August for practitioners. And more than 200 practitioners around the country also signed up to do this book study. And 3 of our practitioners here in our group are currently a part of that study group right now. And then CSL said there was such a huge response from practitioners, what if we just send it out to members at large? So if you happen to be on the CSL mailing list, you may have gotten that invitation, And we have one member participating in that as well right now. They're in the middle of it. So it is our intention to offer a similar opportunity to all of you, to CSLTV, for any of you who may also want a chance to look more closely at the things that you believe and think about racism. But in the meantime, here we are today. So watch for more news about that. The fact that our theme for the month is inclusion in action happens to be coinciding with this experience in the world and in our lives is mind-boggling. I've told you many times, these themes were picked a long time ago. They weren't picked just yesterday. They were picked like a year ago. So for the world of events to create the synergy and timeliness is amazing. It's a God thing. And I've learned so much that I just want to share a little bit more with you about how my eyes opened a little wider in this group. So last week I touched for just a moment on the idea that most of us strive to be colorblind. How many of you would say, like, I don't see color, I just see people? Is that pretty common, right? I think I want to dive a little bit deeper into that concept today. So I want you to think for a second about some of the most colorful visual experiences that you have in your life. So perhaps think about walking into a fabric store and think about how much variety of color is on display, and a myriad of colors available to you in choosing fabrics. Or how about if you go to the aquarium and you just watch the fish of every color swim around in the kaleidoscope on that big wall of windows at the aquarium. All the different colors, well, they orange and yellow and brown and gray and green, and they're just beautiful. Or maybe your mind would go to a botanical garden where there's just blooms of every kind and every color. You know, I like holding those, I don't even know what you call them, those little paint selection things. They're like a little stick and there's all the colors and you get to choose what you want to paint for your wall. I love that. And I like going to get a pedicure and there's a whole wall of colors. You know, I just stand there for like 5 minutes, like, what shall I live with for the next 8 weeks, right? My favorite school supply as a child was 64 crayons in a box. It was like that. It smelled good too, but I loved all the colors. So life is colorful, right? You know, I've always loved having a spectrum of colors to choose from. On my list of things that make my soul happy, colored pens are on that list. When Brittany brought the pens out for Remy, I'm like, oh, look at all the colors. I love it. So we're naturally drawn to experiences that are rich in color. I remember when I was thrilled when I got to go to my aunt's house because she had a color television, right? Now, some of y'all are older than me, so you guys really had an experience of going from black and white to color, but I was young when that happened for me. But, you know, technology could finally support that, watching things in color. So color is important to us as we realize it makes our experience of things richer, you know? Does anybody know anybody who's colorblind and they can't perceive color? And they're limited in their ability to see the different shades of color. So imagine you're colorblind. Imagine that, and you're looking at the most beautiful garden in the world that I described earlier. And it has flowers, all different kinds, different colors and textures and heights, and then think about not being able to see the variations in color. So let's use this garden as a metaphor so that we can explore this concept of colorblindness when it comes to diversity, inclusion, and oneness. And a garden is a wonderful symbol of diversity. Think about that. Because an extensive garden has a wide variety of plants. And there are plants that make fruits, and there's plants that make vegetables, and some of them have flowers, and all of them have leaves of different kinds, and some are bushes, and some are grasses, and some are trees, and each plant needs a certain environment that is conducive to its thriving. All plants need sun and shade and nutrients and soil and water and care, kind of a suitable pH balance and a healthy level of aeration to survive. But all of them need these elements in a unique combination and different mixtures for them to thrive and grow. You know, as you know, if you garden at all, some need moist soil, and some just thrive in dryness. And some need direct sunlight, and others need more shade. A garden shows us the truth of nature, and therefore the truth of God and our own truth. The truth is that life shows up in diversified expression. And even though everything is a part of the oneness of common life, nature shows us that there are diversified forms of expression. The sameness, the oneness lies in the source. The diversity lies in the expression. This is true for plants. It's true for human beings. The source is God. The expression is diverse. So since we're talking about inclusion and taking action, we've got to understand that inclusivity is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. One subset of inclusive behaviors will work with one person, and another person may respond to a completely different set of inclusive behaviors. And just like plants, although we are all the same biologically, we all have different needs and interests and life experiences and circumstances. And when we treat all the same, we dishonor those differences. Pretending that everyone is the same dishonors those differences. Treating people equitably, meaning that we meet them where they are, demonstrates true appreciation for their uniqueness, for who they are. By truly seeing each person as an individual, we can notice and appreciate their unique, beautifully flowering self. Our differences are what enhance our connection, even though we notice that we have a zillion commonalities. Seeing and appreciating the colorful differences in each other, that's what deepens the intimacy between us. It enhances the growth of an authentic relationship with someone. But I was taught to be colorblind when it came to people. I know I'm not alone. I saw the heads nod earlier. You know, I think our parents taught us to just treat people as people regardless of their color. And I think they meant well, but I think they missed the mark just a little bit. This personal study experience that I've been having has awakened me to the truth that being colorblind is actually not helpful. I believe I was taught the idea of colorblindness as a way of being inclusive. I think it was a noble attempt at being helpful, and my intentions were good. My intentions are always good, but I don't think I understood the impact of my colorblindness. The impact of being colorblind is that people of color around me were not actually being seen for who they truly were. They were being whitewashed by my brain. Not being seen, felt, or heard, or distinguished as the beautiful, unique expression of culture and heritage and differences that made them individuals. If I treat everyone the same, then I'm not treating anyone as they truly are. If I see everyone as the same, then I'm not truly seeing anyone as they truly are. I'm waking up to how disrespectful that really might be. The author of the book said it this way: the belief is that if you act as if you do not see color, you will not do anything racist or benefit from racism. And if you teach your children to not see race too, you can create a new generation of people who will not do anything racist or benefit from racism. Unfortunately, the problem does not go away because you refuse to see it. So if I go back to my garden analogy, I was, in my colorblindness, in effect, seeing roses and hydrangeas and daisies and all these different kinds of flowers as just my favorite, tulips. I love tulips. I just want to see tulips, right? In my noble and good intended colorblindness, I was technically believing that a flower is a flower is a flower. A human is a human is a human. Everyone gets the same amount of shade. Everyone gets the same amount of water. Everyone gets the same type of dirt to grow in. Everyone is fertilized and picked the same. I see no differences, therefore I shall treat everyone the same. And quite frankly, when we do that, we don't treat anyone with the dignity they deserve. And when we're living in a colorblind mentality, we want every flower to behave the same way. We expect different expressions of flowers to bloom at the same rate. They were given the same amount of water, right? What's wrong with that daisy? You know, we expect the different expressions of flowers to grow at the same speed. That cactus has the same dirt to grow in as the hydrangea. What is wrong with that cactus? I grow just fine in this dirt. Why can't the cactus? See my point? So I must see and understand and appreciate each variation of flower in the garden if they're going to get what they individually need in order to thrive and to have their right and perfect place in the beauty of the wholeness of this healthy floral experience. So religious science teaches that each person is a unique expression of God, created with sacred value and divine worth. We teach that. And waking up to that truth is so powerful, it can transform our lives and our experience in the world. I remember the first time I was taught that every face is the face of God. Do you remember the first time you heard that? That stopped me in my tracks. That reality changed the perception for me of the people around me. They're the face of God. For the first time, I was in a religious teaching, a philosophy that didn't make other people wrong because they thought differently than I did, behaved or believed differently than I did. And for the first time, I was sitting in a worship environment that was diverse in every way. And I'm telling you, the center in Seattle is diverse, very diverse. It was here in this teaching that I began to unravel some of the errant things I was taught in the society around me. I began to question the beliefs that were deep in my subconscious. You know, I found this teaching nearly 20 years ago, as I said, and I'm still uncovering beliefs that shape my life in ways that I do not want to maintain. And quite frankly, I thought I had done all the healing I needed to do regarding racism. I really did. I thought I had unearthed all of those beliefs that I had carried since childhood, growing up here in the South and in America in general. But here we are, and I'm still excavating these subconscious biases and facing my own inner truth. I am trying to square my inner unconscious beliefs to the spiritual truth that I know and I teach every week. As a part of this journey, I had to really look at this concept of colorblindness. Because being colorblind is an affront to the truth that each person is unique and an expression of God. It's antithetical to the very idea. If I want to live in the spirit of unity and oneness, I got to continue to look at myself and my inner barriers to oneness. Here's what Ernest Holmes says. He said this in 1952 in his Beverly Hills lectures. He said, "Unity and uniformity are not the same thing. No two blades of grass are alike." What does it mean spiritually? We have nothing to disprove and everything to prove that this individualization of the Spirit in each one of us, rooted in common soil, having the characteristics and potentialities of its common background, contains what the ancients called the microcosm. We have every reason to suppose that there is, back and within and around every individual, the divine representation of himself as the Son of God, forever expanding. Unity and uniformity are not the same thing. Oneness and sameness are not the same thing. If we're going to be more inclusive, which I believe we all want to be, we've got to talk about colorblindness. If we're going to be inclusive, we can't ignore the individual uniqueness and experiences that make us different. If we value diversity, we've got to see diversity. Colorblindness is sort of valuing diversity, but it's bypassing the actual experience of appreciating the diversity. Sameness has us being drawn to others who are like us. Oneness has us appreciating everyone as a part of the whole, knowing that the richness of the whole depends on every element showing up as vibrantly as they can. Oneness invites us to purposefully embrace those very different than we are. So I find the climate of the world right now kind of challenging our sense of oneness. I don't know about you, but you know, I've found if someone doesn't think like us or believe like us or whatever, we couldn't possibly be connected to them. If someone has a different point of view or experience, how are we supposed to be friends, online or in real life, right? We tend to gravitate to people who look like we look and talk like we talk and believe like we believe and think like we think and vote like we vote and solve problems like we solve problems. The list just goes on and on. So what are our assumptions? Do you assume separation or do you assume unity? Do you listen for common ground or a reason to draw a line in the sand? People with differing worldviews very seldom share a cup of coffee. Well, we should be sharing coffee, but that's beside the point. But they seldom go to lunch together. They seldom open a bottle of wine to share or share a pizza, you know? It's just easier to be with people who are the same as we are or not be together at all. Our solution thus far has been to be blind to our differences and pretend that we're the same. We can do better than that. Let's really take an interest in our theme of inclusivity and action. If we're really interested in the truth of oneness, we need to actively choose to be in the presence of people who are different from us in order to experience a loving and unified relationship with God as a whole. We've got to allow that love of God within us to push us to widen our circle. We've got to reach out to people who are different than us. We've got to figure out how to embrace the differences, the disagreements, the uniquenesses that each individual person presents to us. So the next time you encounter someone who thinks or believes or prays or sings or dresses or talks or behaves or looks differently than you do, challenge yourself to really actually appreciate and welcome the differences. See the colors just shining forth in all the diversity around you. If you turn away and move towards something or someone more familiar, your opportunity to experience the fullness of the divine is lost. In embracing and including all the flowers in the garden, you can glimpse that beauty of diversity of spirit and glimpse oneness and what it really is. So may each of our lives be as colorful as possible, and may all the blooms be appreciated for the color that they truly are. There is good for us to discover in each and every one. So let's do our one-sentence affirmation together, and then Bonnie's going to sing about that. The nature of God's creation is one of diversity.
The nature of God's creation is one of diversity.
I am not colorblind.
I am not colorblind.
I see the colorful,
colorful,
wonderful and mystical that are expressed uniquely as each one of us.
That are expressed uniquely as each one of us.
Very good. And so it is.